So this is Gabe. I am back with a new video on the Highlander Pro version of the Highlander card game that was just released here at Gencon. I wanted to kind of go over a few of the cards and kind of give you a rundown of my experience. I went to the sealed event on Friday at noon for Highlander Pro. This is a new, I guess you'd say, version of the game that's being released by World of Game Design. But it's basically the same Swordmaster system. So here we have an example of the two main characters that you got to play in the sealed event, the Kurgan and Connor MacLeod. And then I have their weapons, the two-handed broadsword and the katana. As you can see, they've changed the design significantly, and the cards no longer have like the bar at the top stating what it is. The text is kind of just stuck onto the picture. I'm not a fan of this art for the Kurgan. I've never liked that look for the Kurgan. I like the classic armor that he has back in the day. But these are the cards, and this is what the backs look like now. Has a little blurb about the character at the top, then a quote under that. Then it has their stats, which are going with the older 2nd edition gem system. The original one were basically the first one. So these spell out Master, M-A-S-T-E-R. So the first one is your Master cards, then your Agility, your Strength, your Toughness, your Empathy, and your Reason. I'm glad we had the discussion on Facebook about changing the gems. Hopefully that gets done by the time the Kickstarter gets launched. But I had a hard time trying to differentiate between some of those colors, as I'm partially colorblind. So like the Agility and the, what is it, the Empathy, that's purple, I think. Those look almost identical to me. I can hardly figure out which card is which. So hopefully that gets addressed. But basically the Master cards, the first slot, you just take that at face value. That's how many Master cards you're allowed in the deck. All the others, you have to triple them, and that's how many cards are allowed in the deck. I wish they would have gone with the, I guess, revised 2nd edition. Towards the end there on 2nd edition, they were making the gems where the number would just have literally how many cards you could have on there, so you didn't have to sit there doing math. I think a lot of new players struggle with that. So I hope they go back to that. Then you can have Immortals that have weird numbers that aren't multiples of 3. I think that kind of makes things a little more interesting and varied. Then under that, you have the ability for each character. The Kurgan's still practically the same. Your non-ranged attacks do an additional point of damage. Connor, for every ally you have in play, your opponent's exertions are increased by 1 for power blows and power blocks, and decreased by 1 when searching for an attack or defense to a maximum of 3. So no huge surprises there. Here's the weapons. It kind of just gives you a blurb about them, then a quote, then their ability, the two-handed broadsword. You may make an additional exertion during your turn if that exertion is used for a power blow. And the katana, you can attack to areas you just blocked. I do like at the bottom here how they have the little hand symbols showing you how many hands it takes. I think that's a lot more vivid in this edition. So that's what those look like. I'll just get these out of the way here real quick. Next, I want to go into the faction cards. Connor came with Clan Fraser, Clan MacLeod for... Kurgan came with Clan Fraser, Connor came with Clan MacLeod, and then they gave us this promo at the beginning of the tournament for Princess of the Universe. So these are factions. So you can mix and match your factions from what I can tell, and just play the faction with your character. So it gives you a lot more customization, where back in 2nd edition you had to specifically play certain characters and only those characters were able to use those certain factions. These are more varied, so you can customize your deck a little more. It has a little blurb about the faction, a quote, and then it tells you what ability they get. So I really like this because it gives you the ability to customize your character. I've always been a big fan of the generic immortals, so hopefully they bring those back here in Highlander Pro. But I think what's really going to make it more fun if they do have generic immortals are these skill cards. So Kurgan came with Ferocity and Connor came with Stalwart. And these skill cards are basically just a pregame card, just like all the rest. It lets you modify your deck, what can be in the deck. And I really like this. It helps you, somebody could be playing a Kurgan with a two-handed broadsword, but if they have different skills, it's going to be a significantly different deck than just the, just having the same character. So I really enjoy these traits, and I think it's going to help the game overall. I know there's a lot of people that aren't fans of this new Highlander Pro. But I feel like at every stage there was always somebody who wasn't happy with something. But if you look, for example, like right here under the title of the card, it tells you like what goes with that skill. So it's just like any other card, but you get to customize your deck and kind of work that into your strategy. And I can see it being really cool later on down the road once we have a few sets under our belt, because there'll be different skill cards that you can customize your character with, and I think it's going to be a whole ton of fun. So hopefully we'll get to that point. So those are the skill cards, and so far I approve of those as well. Here's another card. We were given a Swordmaster promo, and for those of you veterans like me, you kind of know what to expect here. The Swordmaster is the rip card, basically, that you were able to just tear in half to basically remove one edge, special, defense, or attack card from play. So that's the old-fashioned rip card, and I'm glad to see that that's stuck around. That's always been a fan favorite for me. I think Magic is the only other game I've heard of that has a card that you actually rip to activate. So I've always thought that was cool and unique. I guess right now the only design concern I have is these circles here. So like I can tell that that's an obvious remnant from the Persona cards, because that's exactly where the gems are. So I don't know if later on down the road they plan on making these pregame cards that actually take up gem slots, or maybe they give you gem slots and that's what that's going to be for. I haven't really had a chance to talk to anybody on the design team, so I'm not sure if that's where it's going. But that's my prediction, so I'm thinking that's where they're headed with it. So you might get a weapon or a skill that might give you an extra certain number of cards and certain gems so that you can help build your deck better. I like it, or I don't know if it's just, if those are just there as a printing thing, just to, as a carryover, and they kind of have a template for them and they just forgot to take that part out, but I don't know. And then each starter deck did come with the turn sequence card. I remember these from back in the day. I think we had these in the very first edition that came out back in the mid-90s. It basically has just the turn order, the sweep phase, may do, must do, defense phase, attack phase, ability adjustment phase, and the draw discard phase. So for those of you veterans that have played in the past, no worries there. I played in the sealed event, and I will admit to everybody, I got my hiney beat. I took my Connor and Kurgan deck, and I tried mixing and matching and trying to get the best combo I could. I tried to put in as many attacks as I could in the deck for Bloodlust, because I wanted to really have that shine through. I think I only pulled off Bloodlust once, and it was easily dealt with, just because I got bad draws on cards. So, no fault of Kurgan's there, but you're also limited in a sealed event. But that's what the new packaging looks like. I don't know how I feel about that Connor spelled with an E. I don't know if that's official, like from the script or something, or if that's just something they decided to change to make it different. It kind of bugs me. I'm used to Connor with 2 O's in it, so I don't know who's in charge of that decision, but I'm hoping to hear that it's like the official name in the script or whatever. So hopefully that's the case. Yeah, the game is pretty much plays exactly the same. Some of the wording that was problematic in the past got fixed, and there was the biggest change that I really enjoyed was how the Power Blow cards for the Immortals actually do something instead of just making an attack a Power Blow. Because I think it was the Kurgan's Power Blow says that it cannot be blocked by a guard. Which is nice, because if your opponent has a guard up and the only attack you have is in that grid, then you're able to, kind of get through it, force your opponent to defend with something else. And then I think Connor's does something different, but I really like how those Power Blows were given just a little extra nudge to make that card more effective, so it would be viable to be in a deck. But overall, I played in the sealed tournament. My Gencon was packed. I had so many things to do, including waiting in line for some Lorcana on Thursday morning, so that ate up about half my day. I was able to succeed and get some of that, but that's another story. So yeah, I played in the sealed tournament. It was very straightforward. Rules were pretty much the same thing, so there was no sweat there. I took my son with me, who's now 14. He used to play back 5 years ago when the Omaha team was running pretty heavy with tournaments here. I taught him the game back then, and he came with me to the sealed event. It was so simple, it just came back to him quickly. I mean, he's 14 years old now, so he's gotten a lot better as a card player. But I liked how it was very much the same game. It felt like putting on an old glove, as they say, I guess is the term. But it played very similarly. Got my head taken. I think I got my head taken twice in the tournament. But it was definitely fun. Got to talk to Mr. Mike Sager, who was there. Funny story, I went up and first thing I asked him was if he had a divine intervention. And I caught him off guard. He got a good chuckle out of it, though. He said he told the story about how for the longest time you went up to him and asked him for a divine intervention, he'd have one for you, but I guess they didn't print them up yet, or they hadn't gotten to that yet. But hopefully he'll hook me up later with one. But had a great time talking to him, chatting about the old versions of the game, and kind of get to hear some of his stories. Also, I want to thank Ginger, who ran the sealed event that day. Great job, kind of explaining to players that hadn't played in like decades, kind of going over the mechanics and gameplay and helping to get people started in the sealed event, and being the rules judge as well. So they did an awesome job. And I also want to thank World of Game Design. I mean, like I said, I don't like the art on that Kurgan. Hopefully there's an alternate art that comes out later. But overall, the design of the cards, At first, I wasn't a fan of it. I think all of us older gamers were reluctant to change. And, you know, I'm just like you guys. I mean, I have tons of boxes and boxes of Highlander First Edition, Second Edition. I've sold my First Edition collection a couple times and, you know, bought some more over the years. And it's just, you know, it's tough to move on from the older sets and move on to a new game or a new version of the game. But I think they're, so far, they're doing right by it, and I'm impressed with the quality of the cards. I'm impressed with the gameplay. I'm impressed with just the way things were set up at Gencon. The World of Game Design booth was really cool. They did have their other games there, showcasing that, you know, the games that they produce, but at the same time, they had some pretty cool promos that you could get there. I thought that was really interesting, and I'm hoping that they keep churning these out. I'm hoping the Kickstarter has a huge boost and it does well. But yeah, that's pretty much it for my first impression of the game. I think it's going to do well. I hope there's more of a focus on, I guess, rapid play. I felt like the rounds were going quickly. It did not feel like a slog. In the previous editions, it felt like, well, obviously it's a sealed event, so nobody could set up their defense the way they want, but the game definitely needs to speed up because previous editions were just, I mean, I play other card games now, and the combat, the rounds are just so much quicker, and the game ends faster. So I'm hoping that World of Game Design focuses on that, keeping the game moving, and not allowing turtling and just defensive decks that just make it a death march. So kudos to them. I hope to put together some more videos with hopefully some more information. Please let me know in the comments if there are any other specific things that you don't like about the new cards. I have seen some people on the Facebook group kind of vocal about the new Highlander Pro, but I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good move forward. I think it's a mistake to think that Highlander can't be a successful property just because they haven't put out any new movies or shows in a while. I mean, there was still a lot of people there. I also played in the Highlander Dark Gathering event that was at Gencon. That is a different product. That's the tabletop role-playing game that's being put out under the Everyday Heroes system, which used to be the modern D20 system for those who might be familiar with that. But that was an excellent game. Me and my son participated in that as well. That was on Saturday night at Gencon. I think we had like 100 people in the room. No joke. But it was basically 5th edition D&D mechanics, but you are playing in a Highlander setting. They did a great job with, you know, they were playing Queen music in the background. There were various tables with GMs, and each group was kind of running their own thing, but at the end of the night, it got whittled down, and in the end, there can be only one, and that person won a sword. I didn't stick around to see who won the sword, but I heard there was a great time had, and I would definitely recommend checking out that role-playing game if you are a true Highlander fan. Otherwise, feel free to leave me any notes in the comments as far as the kinds of videos you'd like to see, or if you have any questions on anything that was presented here. Otherwise, I will talk to you later.